Papal optics and political fallout. You know, His Holiness's response to the Cardinal Cupich scandal. But today we're getting the image of him blessing an ice block. Listen, we bless all kinds of things in the Catholic Church. I mean, literally, we can bless anything. Praise be to God for it. But it's the optics. And this is the stuff memes are made out of. Literally.
It's super cringe. That's really the basic version of what I have to say. Yeah, I mean, in the actual traditional classical mission of the church, it's not helpful at all. It's something that I don't think a lot of people, particularly with the first round of scandal that we saw with the horrible comments about pro-lifers, I don't think Catholics have fully digested how absolutely disastrous that comment was. Holy Father, please clarify yourself and please speak very clearly, because I need to make some serious moral decisions, and these ambiguous comments and going and hanging out with an ice block while there's a pagan ceremony going around it, it doesn't help anybody.
By the way, my name is Joe McClane. I host a radio program called A Catholic Take, where we look at the world through a Catholic lens. I'd love for you to hang out with us. If you like it, give it a thumbs up and let us know what you think in the comments below.
But we've been talking about yesterday, especially got really deep into this, about Pope Leo's comments on the Cardinal Cupich scandal, the Dick Durbin Cardinal Cupich scandal. I would argue Pope Leo made that a lot worse. And then, of course, yesterday we saw the video of him blessing a block of ice. The optics of it. It's just the optics of it. We can bless anything. I mean, guns, alcohol, crops, anything can be blessed. There's a blessing for everything. So a block of ice is no exception. But it's the optics of it that I think are part of the issue. And here to talk about that is the traditional Thomist, Nicholas Cavazos. Good morning to you, Nicholas. Thank you for your time. What say you, sir?
It's super cringe. That's really the basic version of what I have to say, but it's good to be with you, my friend. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's the stuff memes are made for, right? I mean, literally, it's become a meme 10,000 times over today. And it's like, how helpful is that in what we are called to do?
Yeah, I mean, in the actual traditional classical mission of the church, it's not helpful at all. It's something that I don't think a lot of people, particularly with the first round of scandal that we saw with the horrible comments about pro-lifers, I don't think Catholics have fully digested how absolutely disastrous that comment was. Because unlike, for instance, in the Pope Francis era, where it was kind of hopscotching around issues, ambiguous language when it came to like the death penalty question. And of course, there was the whole, oh, he's not speaking English, translation stuff, yada, yada, yada. We now have an American Pope who speaks clear English and is speaking in a way which is not only suggesting that the death penalty is not a prudential matter anymore, but it is now something that is morally bad, it sounds like, because he's at least putting it on the same level as abortion and as the quote-unquote mistreatment of immigrants. And I don't think Catholics understand how absolutely bad this is, considering the fact that central to Catholicism's claim for truth is the notion that the papacy is established by Christ to hand down unblemished the deposit of faith. And when you have clearly popes in the same century contradicting one another, and then, of course, the whole kind of pope-splaining racketeer online trying to explain this stuff away, it makes the faith look absolutely nutso to anybody with rational thinking.
Nicholas, one of the things that I picked up on this, I guess it was just this morning, I saw this in my feed. Jack Posobiec and Michael Knowles sort of reminiscing about Charlie Kirk a little bit. They're both Catholic, and they were, they both had debates with Charlie Kirk on the Catholic faith. Michael Knowles had one publicly on video. I don't think that really went well. I was a little upset with Michael Knowles over that, to be honest with you. But nonetheless, Jack Posobiec says, whenever Charlie and I would debate theology, he'd point out the behavior of Pope Francis as a huge sore spot. And he wasn't optimistic about Pope Leo. I mean, this is a repeating story here. We've heard it a billion times. There is a lot of people who might consider the Catholic faith, but because of the shenanigans of, like, say, Pope Francis, for example, they stay back. They don't come in. Or they might go Eastern Orthodox, but they don't become Catholic. That's a definite problem, don't you say?
Yeah, it's the issue that I brought up last time I was on your show, which is anytime someone tries to go and do any type of apologetics with someone who's not Catholic, particularly someone who's of a more, let's just say, politically conservative persuasion, all that opposition person needs to do is really come forward and say, yeah, I like all your arguments. I like the philosophy. I like the church history and stuff. But what about Pope Francis? Right? That card is a battering ram that destroys so many of the Catholic answers, because Catholics are basically trying to teach. What's unique about Catholicism is this. You're trying to say this. Catholicism is uniquely established by Christ. And we know it's uniquely established by Christ because he gave to St. Peter the keys of the kingdom of heaven. He gives to him this role as shepherd and minister of the whole church. And through the powers of apostolic succession, the same faith that Peter in the early church had is the same faith that you can have today. A lot of us converts, that's the reason we converted, is because we were seeking after the ancient faith. But yet when we have popes who are getting up and not just saying things that are confusing, but saying things that are blatantly incorrect, things on the nature of the death penalty, saying that if you support the death penalty, you're no longer pro-life. As many of us have pointed out, it not only calls into question Catholicism, but it also calls into question the whole historical notion of Catholicism, because you're saying to yourself, okay, so are we going to say 260 plus popes, they're not pro-life? All of these catechisms aren't pro-life. All of these ecumenical councils aren't pro-life. The Bible himself is not pro-life. I guess God himself is not pro-life either. All of these become major, major issues. And for a lot of people out there, they don't want to put up with anymore, especially after the last 13 years, these crazy a priori philosophical theories about how you can somehow get this statement to fit with this scholastic, to fit with this other pope, i.e. the pope-splaining thing. You know why they don't have time for that? Because they have to go to work. They have to take care of their children. They just want to pray. They don't have time for these nutsy Fagans online. And so when they see comments like these, what they're saying is, Father, Holy Father, please clarify yourself and please speak very clearly, because I need to make some serious moral decisions. And these ambiguous comments and going and hanging out with an ice block while there's a pagan ceremony going around it, it doesn't help anybody.
Nicholas, yesterday I retweeted Dr. Taylor Marshall. He put out this tweet about this list of popes who have explicitly supported the death penalty. And it's a long list. I mean, it's a long list, right? So I retweeted that, and he asked the question, were all these popes not pro-life because they supported the death penalty? Well, somebody responded to me by saying, with their list, Pope JP2, Pope Benedict XVI, Pope Francis, Pope Leo XIV, saying the death penalty was opposed by them. And he basically says, quote, all the most recent popes chosen explicitly to lead our church in these modern times. So, I mean, it begs the question, is it the Pope's job to lead the church in a new direction? What say you?
No, and that's the issue, is that so many people have really bought into just this kind of papalolatry, where just because the Pope happens to be the head of the church, if the Pope can lead the church into new doctrines, then that's okay because he's the Pope. When in reality, Vatican I and every ecclesiastical manual that you find before the council is very clear that the magisterium, while living, also has a mark or a characteristic that's unique about itself. It's called the traditional mark or note of the magisterium, which is fancy theological language for lay people out there that basically just means that when our Lord instituted the papacy, he said to St. Peter, hey, don't go around changing what I gave you. Of course, theology can develop, doctrine can develop, but it doesn't develop to the point where it's antithetical or against what was previously taught. Rather, it's just a greater insight on what was given by our Lord. And so, for instance, when we look at individuals like John Paul II and Pope Benedict, we see them not saying that the death penalty is intrinsically immoral by principle, rather that in a practical prudential matter, maybe we can start to work for its lessening because we have bigger jail facilities, et cetera, et cetera. I personally still don't agree with that. I said yesterday on my show that I believe the death penalty should happen very liberally, especially nowadays. But it was really with Pope Francis changing it to inadmissible and then an interview saying it was immoral where this whole insanity began.
I want to play this clip here from Jack Posobiec commenting on the whole death penalty thing from Pope Leo's comments to the press. Have a listen.
I liked what Pius XII says there. It is not the state depriving you of your right to life. you have deprived yourself of the right to life because of what you've done.
Right.
That's incredible.
Right.
And spot on. You have made the decision. We've lost that part of, I think, this argument. Would you agree, Nicholas Cavazos?
Yeah, who honestly knows what the church teaches? Because you have on that one hand Pope Pius XII saying that you've lost your right to exist because you've gone and committed some type of heinous act. And now we're told that if you support what Pius XII said, you're now no longer pro-life. So I don't understand what the heck is going on.
I mean, I guess it comes down to, what does it mean to be pro-life? Can we never, well, like, if being pro-life means, can I not do any corporal punishment? Like, where does it become no longer pro-life if I punish my child for breaking the rules, for instance? Do you know what I mean? Like, the philosophy of it seems to be disconjointed.
Well, I think what happened is that in 28, Pope Francis revised the catechism. You know, he has this interesting line in his revision, which says something to the effect of that capital punishment is an offense against man's dignity. It's a wounding against man's dignity, and it runs contrary to the gospel. He uses lines along that nature. When it's really interesting, because when we juxtapose this to Genesis 9:6, God himself mandates capital punishment because you have a man who's made in the image and likeness of God attacking his fellow man who's equally made in the image and likeness of God. And so it does beg the question, what does it even mean to be pro-life? And I think that in our own political world, what makes this so sad is that for every average Joe that's out there listening, when you guys hear the phrase pro-life, you all know what that means. It just means that you're anti-abortion, you're anti the slaughter of the unborn, as you should be. But now when you look and you see that the Pope is saying, okay, if you believe that Charlie Kirk's assassin, again, alleged assassin, because he hasn't been charged yet, but alleged assassin deserves the death penalty, you're now no longer pro-life because this is somehow contrary to the gospel, when in fact it's not. And so what happens and what leads to this is it leads people to kind of just add on one more tile in the notion of the Catholic Church, as I put it yesterday, kind of the conciliar project going crazy. Because we have to remember that while we're being told that we're no longer pro-life, Latin masses are getting shut down worldwide. The Pope doesn't seem to be doing anything about that. Nigerian and Congo Christians are being slaughtered by Muslims, and we see very little action with that. And then on top of that, we see no condemnations of any of the major issues that are taking place in our own society. We can all, of course, want and just, and try to support unity, which seems to be Pope Leo's thing, but it has to be a unity founded in something, right? Not just kind of a unity unto nothing. It has to be a unity unto Christ. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense.
I'm just looking at this clip again from yesterday with Pope Leo blessing this ice cube. Maybe he knew that producer Jake is about to get married. And he's going to need some ice for his, reception after the wedding, I suppose. Maybe that's what he was doing, helping Jake out. But I'm just like watching them with this whole symbology of this. I don't think of this blue. It's supposed to look like a river coming from the ice cube. Like, why do we need to go do all of this emotional? What does that do for the environment? You want to help the environment, stop the cobalt mining slave trade that's owned by China and perpetuated by all of us in the West, because I got to have a Tesla, because I got to have a solar panel. But you know what I mean? Like, I got to have windmills that kill birds that need tremendous gallons and gallons and gallons of oil to operate, then catch fire, fall, break, and litter the land. I mean, we're not serious, Nicholas Cavazos, about truly trying to be stewards of the environment. We only pretend with this goofy, nonsensical, symbolical stuff. It just boggles my mind.
Yeah, it's when I look at a bunch of old people taking a banner and waving it like water, I just think to myself, not only are they willfully out of touch, but this is also completely useless. And the reason it's completely useless, as you pointed out, is that there is actual slavery going on worldwide. There is actual major issues going on worldwide. And when we look at the name of this institution that the Pope was at, it was something to the effect of the World Climate Summit for Climate Justice, right? Which just reeks of eco-Marxism,
Right.
because that's what it is. We have to remember who the Pope is dealing with. And again, I'm not trying to bash the Pope with what I'm about to say, but we have to keep this in mind with context. The Pope is meeting with a bunch of secular leftist world globalistic leaders who are there to promote the climate agenda, not because they actually care about the climate, and we know this because they continue to build beachfront property at your expense, but because they like control. They like authoritarianism. And of course, one could debate the merits of authoritarianism versus libertarian governments. I'm not going to do that here, but they want to be authoritarian, and they basically want to rule over people's lives. And so why is the Pope meeting with individuals like this? It's because ever since Pope Paul VI, when Pope Paul VI laid down the papal tiara and he went to the UN, which the Vatican previous to that point had condemned pretty harshly, he goes to the UN, he talks about how amazing the UN is, this hyper emphasis on man's dignity in a post-World War II world, and the popes have carried this on. One thing I don't know if you brought up on your show yesterday, but I brought it up on mine, is that on the same day as we saw this horrible stuff about the death penalty, we also saw Pope Leo release an ad about all world religions praying for peace. And in this ad, it was arguably one of the worst ads people have seen thus far, at least in the comments that I've seen. And you see him continue to show scenes from Assisi. It's like there is zero contrition from the hierarchy about any of this stuff. It's just the same project. And I'll finish by saying this, that what scares people so much about this realization is I think with these statements, we're realizing that not only are we not going to get any kind of doctrinal relief, which we were hoping for, but now we're going to have the next 15 to possibly 20 years of confusing statements, and this nonsense is going to continue to be institutionalized at your expense.
It's going to give us a great opportunity to provide clarity.
Did you like that video? It's okay. You can admit it. It's perfectly fine. Hey, we cover the big stories of our day, from inside the church to outside the church to all points in between, and we do it from a Catholic perspective. It's called A Catholic Take. It's a radio program Monday through Friday. We live stream it right here on this channel, by the way, so make sure to subscribe, like, and share. We would be very grateful to you. And don't forget, you're going to want to watch this video right here because you don't want to miss anything.